I was standing in line at the grocery store when the text came through. No build-up, no warning, just a single message from Sarah that hit like a punch straight to the gut. I'm leaving you. I need someone with ambition. I've taken what's mine. Please don't contact me. I read it twice, then again. My first reaction wasn't heartbreak. It was confusion. I thought maybe she'd sent it to the wrong person. She'd never said a word about being unhappy. Nothing about needing ambition. Whatever the hell that meant. We'd had dinner together 2 nights ago. Pasta, a glass of wine. She'd kissed me goodnight. I left my cart in the aisle and walked straight to my truck. Didn't even think about the eggs and milk I just paid for. My hands were shaking, but my brain was on autopilot. I opened our banking app, well, what used to be ours. We shared one account. The moment the screen loaded, my stomach dropped. 0. Not even a few bucks left. Just an overdraft warning and a red banner flashing insufficient funds. I just sat there watching that 0 like maybe it would change. I clicked through the transaction history and saw it. A wire transfer of over 80 grand. Everything we had gone. Sent to some account I didn't recognize. That's when it clicked. This wasn't impulsive. She'd planned it. I'd been busting my ass for years while she worked part-time and talked about starting her own thing. I'd handled the bills, the boring stuff. She was always the ideas person. Now I was the idiot staring at a drained bank account and a breakup text like some clueless extra in a bad Lifetime movie. You need someone with ambition, she said. Like working overtime and putting her name on everything I built was worthless. I scrolled through my texts. Nothing from her before that. No warning. Just one nuke dropped straight on my life. That's when I remembered something. Months ago, she'd insisted on changing our banking structure for tax benefits. I hadn't thought much of it. I trusted her. Turns out, trusting Sarah was like handing a toddler a shotgun and hoping for the best. I stared at that last transaction for a full minute before I smiled. Not because it was funny, but because she had no clue what she'd just done. She thought she screwed me over, but I knew something she didn't. She made herself the only one legally responsible for all of it. I opened her message again, typed out 2 words. You too. Then I blocked her number, tossed my phone in the passenger seat, and started the truck. Let the chaos begin. I didn't even make it home before the call started. First her, then her sister, then her mom, all back to back like some kind of coordinated panic attack. I ignored every single one. By the time I walked into my apartment, I had 22 missed calls and 9 unread messages. All caps, all desperate. Nathan, pick up. We need to talk. It's not what you think. Then came the voicemail from her lawyer. Calm, smooth voice. Real professional. Mr. Barnes, this is Alan Porter representing Sarah Whitman. We are formally requesting that you accept responsibility for 50% of the joint account debt as a shared marital liability. We are prepared to move forward with legal action if this issue is not resolved immediately. Joint account. That word again. I poured myself a whiskey, sat down, and pulled up the account agreement on my laptop. It was exactly what I remembered. My name wasn't on a single official line, just listed as an authorized user. I had 0 legal claim or responsibility. Before doing anything else, I called my lawyer, Chris, a college buddy turned estate and finance guy who owed me a favor. He took one look at the paperwork and said, "You're clean, man. She's the sole account holder." That lawyer's bluffing. I leaned back in my chair and let that sink in. Clean. I wasn't paying back a single cent of her screw-up. Not one. 2 hours later, my mom called. I picked up because I knew she wouldn't stop until I did. "Have you talked to Sarah?" she asked softly. I rubbed my forehead. "Nope. And I'm not going to." She hesitated. "She called me. Left a voicemail. She sounded broken." "Yeah? So was our account balance. She said she made a mistake, that she thought she could handle it, and now the bank's freezing everything. She didn't know the terms." "She didn't know?" I cut in. "She drained our life savings into a line of credit she opened in her name and didn't read the fine print? She's scared, Nathan." "So was I, Mom. For about 30 minutes. Then I remembered I'm not the one who torched the marriage and stole 80 grand. There was a pause. Then the guilt trip started. She said she loved you, that she didn't mean for this to happen. She thought you'd help her through it. That was rich. She leaves me, robs me, and expects me to swoop in like Captain Fix-It? That was the Sarah I knew, though. She could burn the house down and still expect me to hand her the extinguisher. Look, Mom, I know you mean well, but don't ask me to save someone who lit the match. I hung up and tossed my phone on the couch. A few seconds later, it lit up again. This time it was Sarah's dad. I didn't even bother answering. That man hadn't called me in 3 years. Not even for birthdays. But now that his daughter was sinking, suddenly I was worth talking to? That night I went through the messages again. One from her sister stood out. She messed up, but you're still her husband. Be the bigger person. I stared at it. Be the bigger person. That phrase had followed me around like a damn shadow since we got married. Sarah crashes the car? Be the bigger person. Sarah maxes out a credit card by accident? Be the bigger person. Sarah quits her job again because her boss was toxic? You get the idea. I had spent the last 6 years being the bigger person. And where did it get me? Alone, broke on paper, and treated like a safety net that just refused to snap. Well, the net's gone. Let her fall. I didn't reply to a single message. I didn't return a single call. I let the panic build and the silence drag. This time, she'd clean up her own mess. I was done saving her. I started digging the same night. If she was stupid enough to blow up her life, I wasn't going to be the guy who got caught standing in the blast radius. I pulled up every email I could find from the time she set up the joint account. I knew there had to be something there. Some clue she'd missed or more likely ignored. And there it was. Buried in a forwarded email chain from her personal inbox was a message from a Chase business account rep. The subject line read, "Approved, business line of credit, Sarah Whitman Consulting LLC." My stomach dropped. That name, her little consulting firm that never actually had a client, was the one she slapped on everything when she got into that entrepreneur phase. I remembered the day she set it up. We were sitting at the kitchen table, bills spread everywhere. She had her laptop open and a half smirk on her face like she just cracked some genius code. "This is how rich people do it," she said, tapping away. "You open the account under your business and run everything through it. The IRS doesn't touch your personal income. It's clean, efficient, tax smart." I raised an eyebrow. "Is that even legal?" She laughed. "Nathan, please. I know what I'm doing." Turns out she didn't know shit. I pulled up the documents again and scanned the details. She'd opened the line of credit solely under her business name. Listed herself as the guarantor. I wasn't even a co-owner of the LLC. My name was nowhere near any of the paperwork, just listed as an authorized cardholder, which legally meant I could swipe, but I wasn't on the hook for squat. The next morning, I called the bank, told them exactly who I was, asked about my liability, and read off the account number. The rep on the line didn't even hesitate. "You're not financially liable for any balance on this account, sir," she said. "Only the primary account holder is responsible." I sat there in silence for a second, feeling my blood pressure drop for the first time in days. "Just to be clear," I asked, "even if we were married when she opened it, doesn't matter. Your name's not on the agreement. She opened it independently through her business. You're not liable." I hung up and let out a long breath. Relief doesn't even cover it. It was like watching someone crash a car they stole from you, and knowing the insurance claim wasn't your problem. But it was also infuriating. She had no clue what she'd done. She'd pulled this entire stunt thinking we were tied together by that account. Like I'd have no choice but to dig her out. I bet she thought I'd panic, that I'd throw on a cape and start wiring money the second she snapped her fingers. Instead, I got to watch her unravel. While she spiraled, calling lawyers, texting my mom, trying to spin the story, I stayed quiet. I started reworking my own finances. I opened a new checking account in my name only. Transferred my paycheck direct deposit. Opened a Roth IRA too. I spent late nights reading about debt, credit law, divorce settlements. I took notes. Real ones. the kind of stuff she never had the patience for. While she was crying to her sister, I was setting up a high-yield savings account and moving every dollar I could find. No calls, no texts, not a single reaction. She had no clue that every minute she wasted scrambling was a minute I was getting stronger. She thought she was smart because she watched a couple YouTube videos and opened a business bank account. But you don't need a financial advisor to avoid blowing up your life. You just need common sense. She thought she played me, but the game was just getting started. 3 days later, I got another email from Sarah's lawyer. This one came with an attachment and a bold subject line. Formal demand for division of marital debt. He'd switched tones. Less polite this time. Claimed the line of credit functioned as a marital asset. And since the funds were used during the marriage, I was legally responsible for half. I didn't even blink. Just forwarded it to Chris with the subject line. Get this clown off my back. Chris replied less than an hour later. His email was short and surgical. Nathan has no legal or financial obligation to repay any portion of the line of credit held solely by Ms. Whitman. Any further attempts to assert otherwise will be treated as harassment. He copied Sarah's lawyer. I sat back in my chair and smiled. If they thought that was going to scare me into opening my wallet, they clearly hadn't realized I stopped playing hero the minute she stole from me. Next came the in-person stunt. I was halfway through cleaning out my fridge when I heard a knock on the door. Hard. Repeated. I opened it and there he was, Tom Whitman, Sarah's dad. Same smug face from our wedding. Same forced smile. Nathan, he said, trying to sound warm, like we were about to toss a football or some crap. Got a minute? I stepped out, pulled the door halfway shut behind me. Make it fast. I just think it's time we had a man-to-man. Nope. He blinked. Excuse me? I said nope. I don't do surprise visits. And I sure as hell don't owe you a conversation. She's your wife, he snapped, dropping the fake act. This isn't just her problem. You're tied to this. I shook my head slowly. You know what's funny, Tom? All those years I was paying bills, covering her credit screw-ups, helping her through every passion project that failed. Not once did you show up for a man-to-man. But now that she's drowning in a mess she created, suddenly I'm family again. He opened his mouth, but I wasn't done. Your daughter stole from me, lied to me, then ran off with some clown she barely knew. And now you want to guilt me into bailing her out? Not happening. You're being cruel. No, Tom. I'm just done. I turned around, stepped inside, and shut the door in his face. I blocked both of her parents' numbers that night. The next wave came from Sarah herself. She must have figured out the legal route wasn't working, so she went back to what always used to work: emotional blackmail. She emailed me a letter. Not legal. Just her rambling. I know I screwed up. I was scared. Cal made me think it was the right thing. I just thought you'd help me figure it out like you always do. I never meant to hurt you. Then the last line. You always fix things. I need you to fix this one last time. That one actually made me laugh. That was her whole life strategy. Mess up, spin it, dump it on someone else, walk away. She didn't marry me. She hired me. I was her safety net, her free therapist, her plan B. Well, plan B quit. I didn't answer. Not the email. Not the follow-up voicemail. Not the accidental message she sent 2 days later pretending it was for someone else. I just wish he'd talk to me. She could wish all she wanted. I was done fixing her screw-ups. Let her figure out what it feels like when the only person who ever showed up doesn't. It started with a screenshot. One of my old coworkers from the IT department texted me a post from Sarah's Facebook page. Financial abuse is real. I was manipulated into debt by someone I trusted. Now I'm left with the damage while he walks away clean. No woman deserves this. Underneath, a filtered selfie of her fake crying in the passenger seat of someone's car. Probably Kyle's. I just stared at it for a second, then laughed. Out loud. It was bold, I'll give her that. Lie about your own financial disaster. Slap the word abuse on it. And hope the internet turns you into a martyr. Didn't take long for the comments to come in. A few of her friends jumped in fast, the usual garbage. You're so strong. Men are trash. You deserve better. But then came the real responses. Danielle, an ex-friend of hers from the bank, commented, "Didn't you set that account up yourself? You were bragging about it last year." Then Brian, a mutual friend from a couple's game night, "Didn't you run off with Kyle and drain the account before even telling Nathan?" That's when the wheels came off. People started piling on, asking questions, poking holes in the victim's story. Within 2 hours, she took the post down. But it was too late. Screenshots were already floating around. Somebody even made a Reddit thread about it. I didn't post in it. I wasn't touching that mess. But I read every word. One comment nailed it. "It's always amazing how people only play the victim after they run out of ways to dodge the consequences." That hit me harder than I expected. Because that was Sarah's entire strategy. Rewrite the story, make herself the wounded one, and hope the facts get buried under feelings. But this time, the truth had receipts. She tried to control the story, and it slipped out of her hands like everything else. That week, I started getting side messages from people I hadn't heard from in years. High school friends, ex-coworkers, even a cousin I hadn't seen since a wedding 3 summers ago. They all wanted to know if the drama was real. I didn't feed into it, just kept it simple. She made choices. I'm living with mine. She's living with hers. But behind the scenes, I was watching her spin her tires in public, trying to regain traction on a lie she couldn't hold on to. Even her parents got involved again, this time messaging my friends on Facebook. Her mom sent one of my college buddies this long rant about how I was cold and unforgiving and left Sarah in emotional and financial ruin. He sent me a screenshot. I told him to block her. Nobody was buying it anymore. Sarah had always been good at playing the sweet, misunderstood dreamer. The one who meant well. The one who just needed help getting on her feet. But now people were finally seeing what I'd lived with. Someone who blamed everyone else the second life didn't go her way. And weirdly, I felt calm. My life had become a public mess thanks to her choices. But for once, the mess wasn't mine to clean up. Let her explain her way out of this one. Let her feel what it's like when the truth speaks louder than her story. I didn't have to go looking for updates. People kept feeding them to me. Sarah wasn't just spiraling quietly. She was lighting fireworks on the way down. A mutual friend, Lisa, sent me a photo from Instagram. Sarah and Kyle were poolside at some resort in Arizona, holding margaritas, captioned, "Healing in the Desert." I stared at it, then at the date. 3 weeks after draining the account. Another picture a few days later, this time in Miami. Designer handbag, rooftop brunch, that same fake smile like everything was under control. "You know she's still spending like she won the lottery, right?" Lisa wrote. I didn't reply. Didn't need to. I already knew how this would end. She thought she'd replaced me with Kyle and 80 grand. What she didn't realize was that money burns faster when it's unearned and handled by people with no grip on reality. A month later, Lisa texted again. She's been calling the bank nonstop, trying to cut some deal. They're not having it. Apparently, Sarah had tried to claim financial hardship, said she was unaware of the account terms, begged for debt forgiveness. The rep flat out told her she'd need to repay every cent or face collections. She didn't post after that. No more vacation pics. No new healing updates. Just silence. Then came the part that really told me how bad things had gotten. She tried turning to her parents, Tom and Janet, the same ones who used to act like I wasn't good enough for their daughter. The ones who told everyone at our engagement party that Sarah was marrying below her potential. Now they were the only option she had left. And they said no. I know because someone from her side, her cousin Jessica, messaged me. Just a heads up. Sarah's trying to get people to co-sign a loan for her. She's desperate. Her dad refused, and so did everyone else. It got worse. She launched a GoFundMe. I'm not joking. The headline read, "Help me escape financial abuse and rebuild my life." She claimed her ex, trapped her in debt, manipulated her into signing unfair documents, and abandoned her with legal threats and financial ruin. The goal was set at 50 grand. She raised $367 in 4 days. And most of that came from one woman named Patty who commented, I went through something similar. Stay strong. The rest of the comments were brutal. Weren't you just in Miami? Why should we pay for your mistake? You drained the account. Own it. She took the page down by the end of the week. But screenshots, again, made their rounds. I even saw one on a meme page. Sarah's face with the caption, "When you commit financial arson and ask strangers for water." Her public image was cooked. No more sympathy. No more soft landings. And me? I stayed quiet. I watched her blow through $80,000 like it was Monopoly money. I watched her try to lie, guilt, and crowdsource her way out of a problem she built from scratch. And I didn't say a single word. Because when someone builds their own house of lies, the best seat in the world is the front porch across the street, watching it burn. About a week after she killed the GoFundMe, the calls started. But this time, they weren't coming to my phone. They were coming to my job. I was in a morning meeting with my team, budget reports and supply chain updates, when my manager tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Hey, HR wants to see you." That was never a good sentence to hear. I walked down the hallway with my stomach in knots. I hadn't done anything wrong, but I'd seen good people lose jobs over rumors and nonsense. The HR manager, Diane, looked uncomfortable. She motioned for me to sit. "We've received several calls this week," she started, "from someone claiming you financially exploited them during your marriage." I didn't even have to ask. "Sarah," I said flatly. She didn't give her name at first, just said you used your position to manipulate shared finances. She's called 3 times in the last 2 days. Told our receptionist she'd go to the media if we didn't investigate. I let out a breath. "Okay, then let me show you something." I pulled out my phone, opened my cloud folder, and played the voice memo I'd saved. It was a call from weeks ago, Sarah in full meltdown mode. "You think you're safe at that desk job? I'll make them see what you really are. You left me drowning. I'll burn everything you have left." Diane didn't say a word until it ended. Then she asked, "Do you have any written documentation about the financial situation?" I opened my laptop and showed her the bank documents, the business credit agreement, the proof I was never legally tied to the debt. After 10 minutes, Diane leaned back and nodded. "All right, I believe you, but we'll need to escalate this. Your ex-wife is harassing our staff. If she keeps contacting the company, we'll involve legal." They sent Sarah a formal cease and desist the next day. She ignored it. 2 days later, she called again. Told the front desk I was a danger to women and claimed I'd hidden money through my employer. That was the moment the company's legal team stepped in. They filed a police report citing harassment and defamation. She didn't stop there. She posted on LinkedIn, tagging my company, accusing them of sheltering financial predators. She claimed I used corporate connections to evade accountability and that she was a whistleblower facing retaliation. She even screenshotted my employee photo from the company website and posted it with the caption, "This man left me $80,000 in debt. When will the system protect women?" That was the line she crossed. Legal had seen enough. They sent a takedown request, then filed a civil complaint. A judge issued a temporary restraining order banning her from contacting me or my employer. The cops served her the paperwork the next day. And from what I heard, she tried to argue with the officer, claimed she was exposing a corrupt system. What she didn't realize is once you get served a restraining order and keep going, it becomes criminal. And she kept going. She emailed HR again, called my manager directly, tagged the CEO in another post. 2 weeks later, she was arrested for violating the order. Misdemeanor harassment, stalking, and contempt of court. She posted bail, but the damage was already done to herself. I didn't cheer. I didn't gloat. I didn't post a single word. Because I didn't have to. Every move she made only proved what I'd been saying all along. She wasn't a victim. She was reckless, vengeful, dangerous. And now the law finally saw it, too. The courthouse smelled like old paper and tired people. I sat there in a dark suit, hands folded, watching Sarah whisper to her lawyer like they were plotting the final round of a game she still thought she could win. She wore all black, dramatic like she was in mourning, heavy makeup, the same hollow look she'd been carrying for months. The judge, a middle-aged woman with sharp glasses and zero tolerance for bullshit, walked in, flipped through the file and went straight to business. Sarah's lawyer stood up first, went on and on about financial confusion, verbal agreements, and undocumented contributions. He kept saying I benefited from Sarah's account while ignoring that it was opened under her fake consulting business and drained behind my back. I didn't say a word. I didn't have to. Chris, my lawyer, did all the talking. Calm, methodical, armed with documentation. Bank statements, account setup forms, email receipts. Then came the part I'd been waiting for. The judge looked directly at Sarah and said, "You opened this line of credit through your LLC. You were the sole guarantor. Your husband had no legal authority or financial responsibility over this account." Sarah opened her mouth like she was going to protest, but the judge shut it down fast. "I don't want to hear emotional framing. I want facts. This court doesn't deal in social media stories. It deals in contracts. And yours are very clear." Sarah's lawyer tried to pivot, started talking about alimony, lifestyle expectations, the usual grab bag. Said she deserved support for the emotional harm I'd caused by abandoning her. The judge actually laughed. "You emptied a business line of credit and fled the marital residence without notifying your spouse. You initiated financial separation and personal abandonment. You are not a victim of this divorce. You're the cause." Boom. Then came the ruling. I got everything. The apartment mine. My 401k, protected. No alimony. No asset split. No spousal support. And the best part? She was ordered to repay the full balance of the business credit line, plus legal fees. The judge even added a line to the ruling. The court finds the defendant's financial behavior to be malicious in intent. That phrase stuck with me. Malicious in intent. It was the most honest thing anyone had said about her through this entire mess. She didn't just screw up. She knew what she was doing, and did it anyway. I didn't look at her when it ended. I stood up, shook Chris's hand, and walked straight out of the courtroom. But out of the corner of my eye, I saw her face fall. Like the verdict knocked the wind out of her. Like she really believed she could charm or cry her way through a courtroom the same way she did through our marriage. Outside, I finally exhaled. There wasn't a parade. No applause. Just me and the quiet buzz of the street as I walked back to my car with the paperwork in hand. I'd won. Not because I played dirty. Not because I fought harder. I won because the truth held up. And she couldn't fake her way out of it. After months of chaos, silence, manipulation, public lies, and legal threats, Sarah walked away with nothing. And for the first time in years, I walked away free. A few months passed. I kept hearing bits and pieces about Sarah, not because I was looking for it, but because people kept sending me updates. The first one came from Lisa, the same mutual friend who'd been the first to show me Sarah's Instagram meltdown. Sarah's working a call center job now. Collections. She can't even pay her rent. It was like a bad sitcom watching someone crash like that. From buying designer bags in Miami to scraping by on commission in a cubicle. Sarah had no clue how to live within her means. But I didn't feel bad for her. Not anymore. Then another message. This one from a guy I used to work with. "Sarah's been telling everyone she's the victim in all this. That you left her with nothing and forced her into bankruptcy." I didn't care. I wasn't even surprised. She tried to spin that story since the divorce, but the problem was that nobody was buying it anymore. People saw through her, finally. She'd burned every bridge. Every sympathy she had left ran out with her GoFundMe campaign. I moved on. My life didn't revolve around Sarah anymore. I focused on my job, my future, and dating someone new. Her name was Emily. We met through a financial literacy workshop of all places. Emily wasn't flashy. She didn't need to be. She actually understood how money worked, and we talked about savings and investments the way most people talk about movies and vacations. We had the same values. Stability, hard work, no drama. We were building something together, something real. As for Sarah, she remained a ghost in my past. I didn't need to follow her down anymore. I didn't need to feel sorry for her or root for her to make a comeback. She'd already made her choices, and I made mine. And that was all that mattered now. I thought back to the last thing I'd said to Sarah during the divorce hearing when the judge dropped the hammer. You're the cause. Funny thing, when people destroy their own lives, they never see it coming until it's too late. Good luck surviving, Sarah, I muttered under my breath. You're going to need it.